In 1945, a poor mother from Georgia walked into prison, knowing she would never walk out again. She begged for mercy. She said she did what she did to survive. But the system didn't listen. Decades later, the truth finally came out. She should have never been executed. This is the story of Lena Baker, a woman they punished, and then apologized to 60 years too late. To understand this story, we must first go back in time to a small town in rural Georgia. This is where Lena Baker lived. Born in 1900, Lena was a daughter, a sister, and eventually, a mother of 3. Like many black families in the Jim Crow South, hers was a life defined by hard work and very little reward. She grew up picking cotton, her hands telling the story of long days under a hot sun. She wasn't just a laborer, no. She was a person with hopes and dreams, just like any of us. People who knew her described a woman who found joy in simple things, who loved her children deeply, and who held on to her faith even when life was incredibly difficult. But the world she lived in was filled with barriers. Opportunities were scarce, and the lines of power were drawn sharply along race and class. For a black woman with little education and even less money, life was a constant struggle for survival. She took whatever work she could find, from farm labor to cleaning houses, all to provide for her family. It was this need to provide that led her to work for a white man named Ernest Knight. Knight owned a grist mill and had a reputation in the community. He was known for his heavy drinking and aggressive behavior. Taking a job cleaning for him was a difficult choice, but for Lena, it was a way to put food on the table. This decision placed her in a dangerous and imbalanced situation, where she was an employee in a world that offered her very little protection. The power he held over her was not just as an employer, but was amplified by the racial injustices of the time. Lena found herself trapped in a world where saying no was not a simple option. But what happened next shocked everyone. The struggle she faced daily came to a horrifying peak on a fateful day in 1944. Lena Baker and Ernest Knight were involved in a deadly struggle. According to Lena's own account, Knight, who was known for his volatile temper, held her against her will. Fearing for her life, she tried to escape. A fight broke out over his pistol. In the chaos, the gun went off, and Knight was killed. Lena immediately went to the local coroner and told him what happened. She explained that she had acted in self-defense, that she was afraid he was going to harm her. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She reported it, hoping the truth would protect her. But in the small town of Cuthbert, Georgia, the community's reaction was swift and unforgiving. The story that quickly spread was not one of a woman defending herself, but of a black woman who had killed a white man. In the court of public opinion, she was judged long before she ever stepped into a courtroom. Her side of the story, her fear, and her fight for survival were almost entirely ignored. The system that was supposed to deliver justice was about to fail her in the most profound way. Lena Baker's trial was shockingly brief. It lasted less than a single day. Think about that. A person's entire life, their freedom, and their future were decided in just a few hours. The courtroom she entered was not a place of fairness. She was represented by a court-appointed lawyer who, by many accounts, did very little to defend her. He didn't challenge the prosecution's narrative or build a case for self-defense. The jury was made up of 12 white men. In that time and place, this was standard, but it meant Lena was judged by a group of people who could not, or would not, understand her reality. She was given a chance to speak, and she told her story. She described the struggle, her fear, and how she was only trying to save her own life. But her words seemed to fall on deaf ears. The legal system of the 1940s South was not designed to listen to a voice like hers. Key evidence that might have supported her claim of self-defense was overlooked. The focus was not on the truth of what happened, but on upholding a social order that saw her as less than human. It took the jury only a few minutes to reach a verdict, guilty. The sentence was the most severe imaginable. Lena Baker, a mother of 3 who said she fought for her life, was sentenced to be executed. In the final hours of her life, Lena Baker showed incredible bravery and grace. Held in Georgia's Reidsville State Prison, she knew her appeals for mercy had been denied. The governor refused to stop the execution. But even in the face of this ultimate injustice, she did not express bitterness or hatred. Instead, her final words were a message of forgiveness. As she was being prepared for the end, she reportedly said, "What I done, I did in self-defense. I have nothing against anyone. I am ready to go. I am ready to meet my God." She also said she forgave everyone involved in her conviction. Her faith was her final comfort. On March 5, 1945, Lena Baker became the only woman ever executed in Georgia's electric chair. She walked to her death with a calm dignity that stood in stark contrast to the injustice that had brought her there. For decades, her story was mostly forgotten, a quiet tragedy buried by time. Her body was buried in an unmarked grave at the church she attended. But a seed of truth had been planted, and it would just take time to grow. For nearly 60 years, Lena Baker's case was a closed chapter in Georgia's history. Her family carried the pain and stigma of her execution, but they never stopped believing in her innocence. They knew the woman she was, and they knew she had acted to save her own life. Then, in the early 2000s, a new generation began to look back at her case. Her family, led by her grandnephew Roosevelt Curry, started a campaign to clear her name. They worked tirelessly, gathering documents, sharing her story, and demanding that the state of Georgia re-examine this forgotten injustice. They argued that Lena was a victim, not a criminal. She was a victim of an abusive situation, and then a victim of a biased legal system that refused to see her humanity. Their efforts caught the attention of the Georgia Board of Pardons and Paroles. In 2005, the board conducted a thorough review of the case. They looked at the trial records, her testimony, and the context of the Jim Crow era in which it all happened. And they came to a stunning conclusion. The board granted Lena Baker a full and unconditional pardon. It was a historic moment. The pardon stated that the decision to deny her clemency in 1945 was a grievous error. They officially recognized that she should not have been executed. They acknowledged that she was forced to act in self-defense. After 60 long years, the truth was finally official. They couldn't bring her back, but they could restore her dignity and clear her name. So, why does Lena Baker's story still matter so much today? It's more than just a sad story from the past. It's a powerful lesson about justice, fairness, and the importance of listening to every voice, especially those who have been silenced. Her case shows us what can happen when a system is broken. It reminds us that prejudice and power imbalances can lead to terrible injustices. Lena Baker was not judged on the facts of her case, but on her race and gender. Her plea of self-defense was dismissed because of who she was, not because it wasn't true. This story forces us to ask hard questions. How do we ensure our legal systems are fair for everyone, regardless of their background? Her story is also a testament to resilience and the enduring power of truth. For decades, her family held onto her memory and fought for her name to be cleared. Their dedication shows that it's never too late to correct a wrong. The pardon in 2005 wasn't just a legal document, it was an apology. It was an acknowledgement that a terrible mistake had been made. Finally, Lena Baker's life is a reminder of the human cost of injustice. She was a mother, a daughter, a person with dreams, whose life was cut short by a system that refused to protect her. Her story challenges us to be more empathetic, to listen to survivors, and to stand up against unfairness wherever we see it. It teaches us that silence in the face of injustice is a choice, and it is a choice that can have devastating consequences. Her memory calls on us to build a better, more just world. Lena Baker deserved justice while she was alive. Her story reminds us that every voice matters and silence has a cost. What do you think the world should learn from her case? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, please like this video, subscribe for more powerful true stories, and share it to keep her memory alive.